This is Abe Friedtanzer from cinemadailyus.com, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with the creative forces behind the limited series Julia, Chris Kaiser and Daniel Goldfarb. How are you both doing today?
Very well. Thanks
Great.
for having us.
Of course, it's great to be able to talk about this show. What is your earliest memory of Julia Child?
Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
My answer is going to be shorter than Chris's. Mine is the cookbooks. My mother loved cooking from them. And there's this particular dessert my mother used to make, a really complicated one called the Los Gatos cake, I think, that was a Julia Child recipe. So I knew her as an author before I knew her as a television personality.
And I am unfortunately older than Daniel and a child of the 60s. And I watched Julia Child in black and white in the 60s with my parents, not probably 63. I was a little too young for that. And we were not a family that cooked. My parents didn't cook. They grilled, they ordered in, they opened cans. But we watched her for all the reasons why most of the world watches her, because of a kind of point of view she had about life. I was too young to know that then. I just remember us watching. But she is one of my earliest television memories.
Well, I guess that makes a lot of sense. My next question was going to be why the choice to focus on the TV show as sort of the central part of her career, at least at the early start of the show.
Well, I mean, for a number of reasons. In terms of Julia and Paul's biography, it's just a really interesting time because there's a total role reversal that happens in their marriage and in their lives. Paul is retiring and Julia is just getting started. It's kind of a great second act story. And we talked about something that was really interesting to both of us was to explore sort of how an old-fashioned marriage, an old-fashioned working, loving marriage becomes a modern marriage. So this just felt like a really, this second act for Julia felt like a great moment to dramatize her life, their life, and then so many changes happening in America. It just felt like a really exciting thing to explore in terms of public television, celebrity, food culture, the women's movement, civil rights, all of it felt like ageism. We could talk about all of this, America's cultural growth in terms of exploring Julia and the French chef in the 1960s.
And so the choice to have Sarah Lancashire take on the lead role, is that somebody that you were interested in, somebody who auditioned, someone you knew and familiar with?
But we didn't know her. I mean, we made a list of who might play Julia. It was a long list. And the demands were very great to play this iconic character. And it turned out in the end that Sarah was the only person we could all agree on as being a plausible Julia. And we knew her, Daniel and I did, as did our casting directors from her work on Last Tango and Happy Valley. Obviously, America doesn't know her. But we thought she had the gravitas and the ability to inhabit a character and to convey contradictions, because Julia is all about contradictions, as better than anyone else. And then it was a little bit of a leap of faith. She did audition for us. I mean, she wanted to do it. She read, but there was no conversation about becoming Julia in those auditions. And she was clearly wonderful in the auditions. Then the process was her own process of taking those scripts and becoming this person, physically and emotionally, and that she did mostly without conversation, because she doesn't want to talk about it. She just wants to do it. And when you do it like that, we don't need to talk about it.
That's right.
Well, in speaking to some of your supporting cast, they were most impressed by the fact that she could cook while she was acting. And that's two very separate skill sets that you have to really be focused. And they said that was something that they did not think that they could do.
Yeah, she did everything. I mean, she didn't want any stand-ins, any doubles, hand doubles or chopping doubles. She did all of her own cooking. It was a mammoth amount of work she undertook, and she was letter perfect. She was really a perfectionist, and luckily she was supported by the rest of the company that was just as invested as she was. But it was as writers, it was incredibly humbling just to see everyone coming in onto set, more than prepared.
Yeah. And you mentioned that Sarah's somebody who isn't really known in America. And I think that David and Bebe, who might be your next, sort of most known leads, are people who might be better known for their Broadway work or their TV work in the 80s or the 90s. Was that something that you felt was helpful to this? Did you want to have them as more recognizable people?
No, I wrote the pilot and David was the prototype for Paul in my head. He was the first person. I mean, the fact that we actually got him is just sort of a miracle. I was saying this earlier to someone else. We would often say like this, James Cromwell is the prototype, and then they would get us James Cromwell. So that was great luck. I mean, I live in New York and I've seen a lot of David's theater work and a lot of Bebe's theater work. So I know just how incredibly talented and how full their range is. But having two, television comedy legends and comic geniuses get to play these parts and also bring so many of these other colors that I've seen them in their stage work was. We were really just thinking they were great. Like there was no.
Yeah, Bebe was also our first choice. No, there was never a list for Avis and no second choice. And by the way, David wasn't available when we cast Bebe. So it's not even as if we said, let's put them together. David, we thought of first, Bebe second, but it didn't come together until we were ready to do the pilot 6 months into the pandemic. So that was not planned.
Well, I'm glad it all worked out. There's so much material. Did you always know that you wanted this to be an 8-episode limited series?
It's not. It's not a limited series. We are already working on a second season. We haven't gotten a pickup yet, but in an act of incredible optimism, we're working on it. No, we actually slowed the show down. We took less time. We covered fewer years. Fewer years in the first season than we expected we were going to, and we're going to pick it up. No, this story is the story about a marriage that ages, and the way it moves through the world and the way everyone around her changes also. And there are lots of things still to tell.
That's great. It's a great answer to an incorrect question. So I'm glad I asked it and I got the real story. Do you think if season 2 comes, is that something that's going to be markedly different in tone, or just to tell the next chapter of the story?
We hope all the characters continue to evolve and grow and change, but I think the tone it's the same tone and the same Julia's optimism and the kind of both the comedy and the drama and the kind of human scale of it all is always going to be true to what the show is.
But the rhythms of comedy and drama will change because we try to be at least somewhat truthful about where the pitfalls are in life, when things hit you from behind, what you don't expect, what ends up, setting you back. And so that's going to happen not in the same way as it happens in the first season. I hope it's surprising, but we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. We don't have the pickup yet.
Of course. Well, I think that we're in an age where there are so many limited series, and a lot of them are based on modern events that are, so fresh and recent. And so it's nice that there really is such a rich source of material that goes on. It's not like something just happened a few years ago. We don't know the next chapter yet. Here, there really is so much. And I feel like, I've seen the documentary, I've seen Julie and Julia, but I don't know as much as I should. And there's still so much to learn. And so it's great to see that here.
Oh, great. That's how we hope you feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you both for taking the time to speak with me today. The first 3 episodes of Julia premiere on HBO Max on Thursday, March 31st. For more great content, you can subscribe to the Cinema Daily US YouTube channel. It was very nice to meet both of you today.
Really nice to meet you as well.
Thanks for taking the time.